steel, concrete, labor. Those are all parts of a solar plant, all parts of a wind plant. So as the pencils get sharper, I think we're going to find that sticker shock that I alluded to in my comments is going to apply across the board. But the bottom line of all of this is people much smarter than I, and who have done this for a living for all their lives, to include analysts on Wall Street, have concluded that nuclear will be competitive with any form of alternative energies, of renewable energies. Not to say that I don't think we should not use them. I think we have to use everything we can get our hands on. Let me address the insurance issue that you raised, if I may. There is one overarching insurer, and then there are sub-insurers underwriting some of the liability in the nuclear world. The primary insurer is called the Nuclear Electricity Insurers Limited out of Delaware. In point of fact, they return more proceeds to the companies than the premiums those companies pay year after year after year, and have. Am I correct? Do you have numbers from FENOC, from First Energy? It's
a couple $1 million.
A couple $1 million a year above net of premiums paid. So the insurers, in point of fact, don't charge humongous premiums. They make money on investments above the premiums that are charged, and remit that money back into the companies. So it doesn't cost the consumers. But consumer cost is what's driving a lot of my concern and a lot of my remarks about achieving proper financing for these plants through these government loans. These same analysts, these same analyses that have been conducted say that we can reduce the cost to the consumers by 30 to 40% if we have these U.S. government-backed loans. Now again, that's not a subsidy, it's not a taxpayer expense. When that bill was passed, it was, if you understand this word from the Washington world, it was scored at zero. That is to say, the Congressional Budget Office looked at this bill for the loan guarantee portion and said loan guarantees for new wind, new solar, new nuclear should not be scored as a cost against the federal debt. That in fact they anticipated, just as I alluded to, that money would come back into the Treasury from this loan guarantee program. I hope that partially addresses your question. It's a very detailed discussion, but I feel comfortable that these plants will deliver value to the consumers, or we will not build them.
Admiral Bowman, I think I'm going to pick the same topic that you've heard before, because I think you do slide over it some in your remarks, and it really is the gut fear that there is, when you see the big cooling towers in the back of your mind, you're thinking there is a potential terrible outcome, a catastrophe. And avoiding catastrophe is one of our fundamental human objectives. So I wonder if the whole system that we have for regulation is adequately constructed. We have the extraordinary incident where we got down to a quarter inch of steel before we would have a meltdown too at one of our nearby power plants. It was absolutely terrifying. And I wonder if this is so consequential, so dangerous, that there should be someone to watch the watcher. You have the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, but conceptually you could have someone to watch that commission. A whole new structure where you have a built-in audit function that is another whole layer of examination of whether the regulatory system is adequate. Could you comment?
Sure. Thank you very much. If you would, Beth, would you stay away from the curmudgeon table? I wondered exactly what that placard meant when I walked in, and just teasing. Again, a good question, and shame on me if I appear to gloss over, because it's not something that I intend to gloss over. Perhaps it comes from my background and my experience that I've become too comfortable, and I need to understand the depth of the concern, or at least elucidate on the depth of the concern a little bit better. You heard Donald say that I was the beneficiary as part of my Navy education of a nuclear engineering degree from MIT. So I have the technical understanding of the operation of these plants. But more importantly, for 38 and a half years, I operated these plants. I was a member of a new construction crew, not once but twice. That means I took a brand new reactor core critical for the first time. In fact, I was on watch when those cores were brought critical for the first time. I've operated submarines at sea at 100% reactor power down to 0% reactor power. I've taken these reactor plants through their paces, scramming on drills, exerting extreme pressure on the crew to see how the crews react and how the plants perform. I've watched submarines go from 100% full power ahead to 100% full power astern and watched these power transients. I've witnessed this situation at the Institute for Nuclear Power Operations and the extreme pressure that I spoke of earlier, peer pressure, CEO chairman to CEO chairman. So perhaps I have become too close to it, too familiar. But in my heart of hearts, I know that this is a safe technology when managed properly and when watched. We have a system of qualification standards and training standards that are second to none in this country. The nuclear industry, in fact, if you look at industrial accidents even, this focus on safety extends to the parking lots. We don't have people fall down in parking lots on icy surfaces in the nuclear power industry. We don't have people falling downstairs because the handrails are loose. So it goes to even that extreme, but it's because of the focus we put on reactor safety. And there is, in fact, an oversight group that watches the watcher. And Senator George Voinovich happens to be a key member of that committee that watches the watcher in the Senate. His partner is Senator Carper from Delaware. The two of them are a formidable pair when they start grilling the Nuclear Regulatory Commission officials and the chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission on various aspects of their responsibilities. I'm sure this is available easily on the internet. You can Google your home state senator and find how much oversight there is of the overseer. So we do have that system in place. It's a great idea, but it's done. It's already there. And I apologize if I sounded like I was glossing over it, and I think I hope I gave a reasonable explanation for why I might have done that. My wife and I one day sat down after I had retired from the Navy and figured out over that 38 and a half years of Navy experience, I had spent 6 years plus a little bit underwater. Not all of it, thank goodness, was all at once, but if you, that's the cumulative amount. These submarines that I served on were no longer than 400 feet long. The reactor sits in the middle of this 400-foot tube, which means that if I tried to, I couldn't get more than 200 feet away from these operating reactors for 6 years of cumulative time underwater. And I guess this is the, sorry. I encouraged my son to go into the submarine service. I would not have done that. Sorry. I'm a tough guy, huh? I apologize. Hope that addresses some of it, and I apologize for glossing over.